Hi, my name is Judy Greer, and you are listening to In Her Words.
Everyone has a story. Welcome to In Her Words, a podcast from women in entertainment where female creatives and allies share their stories in their own words.
This is a dedicated space centered on how to harness creativity for inspiring and impactful projects in the ever-changing landscape of entertainment.
I'm Renee Rossi.
I'm Gretchen McCourt.
And this is In Her Words.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to In Her Words. We are thrilled today to have the amazing Judy Greer on the podcast. When we think of Judy, we think of everybody's best friend, and she did not disappoint. That's exactly how she is in real life. We're talking about her new project, Eric Larue, which is a little bit of a departure. We think you're going to love this conversation. We certainly did.
Judy, I am going to say I have the biggest crush on you, girl crush. You are.
Me too.
I'm like such a fan.
Thank you.
Pick amazing roles. I'm so excited about this conversation. We're so excited.
Oh, me too. Thank you for saying that. That makes me feel good.
It's like I don't even know where to begin with your roles. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
Our audience is all about how do we help them, take words of wisdom from, established in the industry to some folks that are starting to build their careers. So maybe we can just start kind of at the beginning of how you got into acting and what that was like for you. And, you've had an amazing career, so we can kind of go into some of your roles in due course.
Yeah, I mean, what it's been like for me has been so awesome. I mean, I have to say I get really nervous when people ask me for advice when they're young and they're starting out because everything's totally different now. And I wouldn't even, I mean, I do have like a thing that I say to people when they ask me, but it's so different from when I started. So I started acting kind of because I went to acting school. I should say I went to acting school because I didn't know what else to do. I started acting because I kept getting jobs acting after acting school. So those are like two different things in my head. I went to an acting school after being I took acting classes. I was in an arts program, like a magnet program in my public high school outside of Detroit, Michigan. Growing up, I was doing ballet, dancing, and that kind of was like a natural segue to trying to be, I'm sort of like truncating the story right now, but basically it was like from being a dancer and trying to study like strict classical Russian ballet, which I was not great at, by the way. But I was really skinny. So like, if you look at me, but I sort of segued into like being in the core of high school musicals. I didn't have like a ton of friends in high school, and it was getting to a point where I was like, I want to do like more high school things. Like I was watching all the John Hughes movies. I'm like, where's my big high school dance, And so I sort of went from dancing to acting in this acting program, and then it was time to apply for colleges. I applied for 3. Now my kids applied for like 30 colleges.
Right.
I'm in the thick of it right now.
Me too.
I'm so sorry. It was so stressful. I couldn't believe it. I had a backup school. I had a okay school. And then I had this acting program at DePaul University that I applied for and got in. But man, it's so different now.
Yeah.
I digress. But like, if you have kids that are, I mean, it's like,
it's wild. Like it's absolutely wild. Like I applied to one school, got in early and I was done.
Same.
I was like, the fact that ED doesn't even matter really anymore. It's just like, it's crazy to me, but that's a whole other.
Yeah. We could talk another hour on that. Yeah.
Like, there should be a podcast for this because you would have all new listeners every 4 years, but you would still maintain
retail content.
Yeah, you could just like keep anyway. So it was the acting program in college that really like was what got me my start, at least taught me how to act. And then after college was over, I was in Chicago at the time. I started auditioning. I got an agent. I started booking roles. I can say I'm talented now, but I still don't understand because at the time there's no way I was. I think I just didn't. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but yeah, I started working and then I just kind of kept working. Like, that's my story. It's not even like that. it's kind of a wow story, but it's not a great story because it just worked out for me. I will say that what I think what has been super helpful that I didn't know at the time was actually like going to acting school, like learning how to recreate a performance on set for 15 hours. Like that is something that I did learn that I didn't even know I learned. But honestly, I think so often about that Malcolm Gladwell quote. I think it's his where he talks about in his book, the 10,000 hours,
Yeah.
you know? And I think like the 10,000 hours, like it does kind of make you good at something if you put 10,000 hours into it. And so I think what's so hard about acting and what I think would be so frustrating about starting out your career is it's really hard to get that 10,000 hours in of acting when you're so dependent on this business. So that's why I think like acting classes are so important. Getting together and like reading scripts is so important. Just like auditioning as much as possible is so important because the actual like hours spent acting when you're just starting out, unless you're like crazy lucky, are small.
Yeah.
No, that's an interesting point of how things have changed so much, and getting there. We hear that, I think, kind of often of there's just not you can be in a zillion little plays and commercials and little parts with starting out like you used to be able to. So that is so when you started getting parts, because even early on you were in a lot of different genres and a lot of different types of roles. Were you just really open to taking anything? You weren't like, oh, it has to be a comedy or it has to be a drama. You were really open to taking a lot of roles that came your way?
Literally anything. I went on every audition. I went 5 auditions a day. I was driving around Los Angeles with the Thomas Guide in my lap, like crazy. I would go in for anything. I didn't have this idea of like, well, I want to do X or I want to do Y. Like I just wanted to act. And I thought it was my job. Like I'm from the Midwest. So like I have this weird work ethic of like, I wasn't thinking of ever of myself as an artist. I was thinking like, well, my job is to act. And if I want to act, I have to audition. So I just kept auditioning. And I did meet people along the way that were like, I'm not doing television or I'm not doing comedies or I only want to do serious things. And I'd be like, okay. I mean, those people, like, that's great. Everyone's different. But I just was like, I just want to act and I want to just keep being on set. And I thought it was fun. It was also fun. It still is. Even, you think like, oh, comedies are fun and dramas are not. Like, that's so not true. Like, the most fun I've had has been doing really dramatic movies because you have to open that pressure valve. Like, otherwise, so on set, anyway. No, and I think at the time I was starting out, I could be wrong about this, but I always thought it was the cast of Friends that started to really blur the line when I was starting out about TV and film. Like right when I moved to LA, it was like, well, do you want to do TV or do you want to do movies? And you kind of like had to choose. But like I said, I was kind of like doing both. But the cast of Friends was the first cast I really remember that on their hiatus, they would do movies. Like you had them doing these like silly romantic comedies often. And then all of a sudden it felt like the line of like choosing between TV and film like got really blurred. I mean, now there is no line because I don't even know what anything is anymore. Like it's all streaming, I think. But back then it did feel like you had to make this decision. And then like over the course of a few years, like that became less important. And especially at my level of acting, when you're a supporting actor, like you can kind of get away with doing both because you're a little bit lower down on the call sheet. I like to say like 3 to 5 is my sweet spot.
I remember that time that you're mentioning the cast of Friends and that happening. And then also it felt like when the Sunday night HBO shows, became such quality that it was, again, that started blurring that line between what was acceptable. Yeah.
And like, not to be such a dork, but like, it wasn't TV, it was HBO. Like it was totally different. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, what a great ad campaign, HBO, because you're actually like so right.
Yes.
Like that was the beginning of this thing where it's like, well, what is it?
Yeah.
And the content was so great.
You've obviously kind of experienced so many different iterations of the industry in Hollywood. You know, when you look at it now and you choose parts, you know, how are you finding your like path right now within, you know, the streaming, the TV, the film, the miniseries? It's like there's so many different formats now, right?
Yeah.
In terms of and especially adaptations. You know, you have the miniseries that are just huge now, and
I love, by the way, that you call it a mini series, because I'm also like, I'm always saying I'm doing a mini series, and people are like, "What?" I'm like, "A limited series." Like,
like limited series. I'm like, you know, clearly you're all in the same age range here.
I know. And I was like, "Oh, a mini series? That's cool." I was like, "I don't know what that is." I'm like, "Yeah, because you're 22."
Right,
It's like,
right.
When I say to my kids, "Oh, it's like, do they still have after school specials?" They're like, "What's that?" And I'm just like, "Oh, come on."
It was always about a girl with an eating disorder. I don't know if it was
That is like Candace Kemp,
or the boy and the bully.
all of them.
The bully.
Like, the whole Hallmark crew was like, and Jack crew was like in those, like the Fred Savage from the Wonder Years. Like, come on.
I know. I don't really choose, like, yeah, those same for me. Like, now all the lines are kind of blurred. I kind of think of a couple things, like the people involved in the project always, what the role is, and like, I mean, I'll be lying if I don't say paycheck at this point too. You know, you have to consider those things, and then like, where does it shoot, and how long am I going to be away from my dog and my husband? And I should not say it in that order, but you know what I mean.
That's right. I kiss my cat over my husband's.
Yeah. So I think about a lot of those things, but what I don't think about really is like, oh, is it a movie? Is it streaming? Is it this? Is it that? I mean, sometimes I'll sign on to do a project, and someone will be like, it's going to have a theatrical release. And I'm like, huh? Oh, right. That's like a thing now that like things don't. But yeah, I don't, it's just, everything is changing so quickly and so much that it's really just more about like the people and the content at the end of the day.
You commented on where things are filming. How much has that changed, navigating, you know, so much filming going out of LA, you know, not only just US, but now heading out of US? Is that, you know, does that become a bigger, and we joke about our dogs and our husbands, but is that a bigger consideration now, because so much filming is probably a further location for you?
Yeah, it is. It's not as much of a concern anymore because my kids are out of the house, but I think maybe even when they were in the house, they were like, "Oh, you were gone." But anyway, sometimes I remember like coming home from being gone for a month, and everyone's like on the couch watching TV, and I like put my suitcases down. I'm like, "I'm home," and they're like, "Hey," I'm like, anyway. But the bummer is, like, joking aside, the industry that we created is no longer being made in this town. And that, like, regardless of how much I love my house and wanting to sleep in my own bed, you know, I'm seeing just so many of the crew people I've worked with my whole career in LA looking for other jobs and trying to figure out, I mean, you know, people are losing jobs because we farm out our industry now. And it was like, you know, we joked it was like Atlanta and Vancouver, and now it's all going to like Ireland and Hungary. And I mean, sometimes it seems like kind of sexy to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to such and such place to shoot something, but you know, it's a drag. Like, it'd be really nice to shoot things here in LA. You know, I did a movie here before the holidays, a little independent movie, and we shot it in Los Angeles, which for an independent movie of that budget is unheard of. And we had to like shoot we had to shoot like an hour outside of LA so many days for the tax credit, because they were like, well, we need to bring production outside of Los Angeles as well. And I'm like, but we don't even really have production in Los Angeles. Like, I was so confused by it. I mean, look, I'm not complaining. I was happy to be home at the end of the night, but like, it was still so strange to me. And bringing, I mean, I think they're shooting like America's Got Talent, like in Ireland. Like, I'm so confused by all this. I don't mean to sound like a total boomer, but that's the part that bums me out more than like just my own personal physical body having to travel to work. It's like, I just wish we could figure out how to make our TV and movies in Los Angeles. And look, when it makes sense to go somewhere. You know, it used to be we would shoot everything here and then we would go somewhere for like 2 or 3 weeks to shoot exteriors, you know, like,
Right.
and that was always really fun because like you'd be shooting here and then you're like, okay, now we're going to go to New York and do all the New York outdoor New York stuff. And it was like, oh my God, we're in New York. And now it's like all that stuff is, I don't even know where they would shoot, you know, it's, yes, I think that's a drag. That was a really long answer. So feel free to edit.
No, it's a big concern now. And we're hearing, we love to talk to a lot of, you know, obviously above and below the line. And it really is a concern as people are looking at their careers.
Yeah. And like a hairstylist I worked with 3 times, like she was like, oh, maybe I should buy this like organization business. Like she's done everything. She's worked on everyone. Like the fact that this woman didn't have a job for X amount of months, I was like, it was insane to me. I mean, I understand why I don't work, but like someone like that, and you're thinking like, it's just such a bummer. I mean, I feel like, you know, when all the cars started getting built, I mean, this is like the automotive industry is like, yeah, Crimea River, we've been dealing with this forever. Like I'm from Michigan, you know what I mean? Like, so it's a bummer. And I wish we could figure that out. I wish I could spend some time figuring that out. If there was any way I could help, maybe, I don't know, maybe Gavin Newsom will figure out some great plan, you know, to rebuild Los Angeles and get all our work back here. And, but anyway, that would be a dream I have.
Definitely. I know the conversation about the incentives are there. So I was looking at when we were doing, you know, research and talking about today, I think the number that came up was 150 projects were listed on that you've been involved in. And obviously, like Renee said, I mean, we're huge fans, and we, you know, The Wedding Planner and 13 Going on 30 and
20. I think I've watched at least over 20 times in my lifetime. Like it is
27 Dresses. Oh my gosh. And Archer and all of these. Just the best. Can you do you have any stories or any favorites, anything that really sticks out that you like to share from your experiences with? I mean, you just have had such an amazing, I mean, it's just given us so much. It's such a gift to the public, your career. So it was so much fun looking at kind of going down your memory lane.
Yeah, it's a lot. I didn't know it was that many. A little overwhelming. I don't know. I mean, there's always people are like, what's your favorite thing you've ever done? And I'm always like, it's the one I'm currently shooting. Like I'm always really happy on set. I've had so many great memories from so many projects. I mean, and some projects like really move the needle, and some I thought like, well, here we go. I better buckle up. I'm probably going to be a movie star now, and like never come out. And you're like, okay, got it. I'm humbled. But, you know, some big moments for me in my career, I think, were always like the first job I ever got, which was Kissing a Fool, which was this movie with David Schwimmer and Jason Lee that Doug Ellen wrote and directed. And that was my first acting job out of college. So that's a big deal for me. And I had so much fun doing it. And it was funny because I'd had from Chicago in college, I had this boyfriend in Chicago, and he moved to LA to be an actor. And I came out to visit him when I was still in college, and I went to the movies at the Sunset 5 one day when he was at work, and I saw like David Schwimmer like was going to a movie. And I was like, it was like my first star sighting. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God. Friends was on, and it was just like, you know what I mean? I like thought I was going to faint. And then my first ever acting job was with him. I was like, this is weird. Of all the actors in the whole world that I would act with first, it was him. And then later he went on to direct me in a pilot I did that didn't get picked up, but like years later. So then we had this like third round. Well, it was my third round, his second experience, doing this movie called it was called Adaptation with Nicolas Cage. And I had a very small role in that movie, but it was one of those moments where I could feel it move the needle for my career. I mean, I loved every minute of that film, and it was such an incredible movie to be a part of. And after it came out, it did feel like things were different. I remember I'd done a lot of small roles and things, and I'd had this meeting with my manager who I've been with for like 25 plus years. He and I worked together forever. And he and I had this meeting, and I was like, yeah, I think maybe we should try to focus on like little bit bigger roles. And he's like, yeah, definitely. Like we should try to kind of push that a little bit to try to like stop doing so many smaller roles. And you get it. Anyway, then I get this script to audition for this role in adaptation. And I was like, hey, just out of curiosity, like this is kind of a smaller role. And he's like, no, just trust me. Like, trust me. Like, I know we did talk about that, but this is different. And I'm like, okay. So, and he was so right, as always. And then another movie, like 13 going on 30, was so huge. That movie was and still is like the biggest influence on my life, down to like my relationships, my like what I learned on set from who, everyone's favorite person, I think, in the world, Jennifer Garner, like watching her, and I didn't know her before that movie. I'd never met her, but like watching her on set, I was like number one on the call sheet, like star of the movie, how she handled just how she is, how she was. I mean, I was like 27 or 28 when we shot that movie. And like, I was like, oh, like this is a movie star. Like this is someone who like remembers everyone's names, like is so kind, like on time, knows her shit, like is just like so fun, so funny, so kind. I mean, like we all love her, but at the time, like it was just really, it was like the best example of someone to work with, of like how to be, just like how to be an actor, how to be a professional, how to be a human being, like all wrapped up in one. And besides the fact that we're still friends, like just being around someone like that, I think was so good as a young actor and a young performer, to see an example of someone like, you hear stories about divas. And to be honest, I haven't worked with a lot of divas, but it was just a really pivotal time for me too then. Also, that paycheck was my down payment for my house that I'm currently sitting in. So that was a really big deal. Yeah, I still live in this house. Everyone else has moved like 500 times. I'm like, I will not move. The house is 13 going on 30 built.
That's him.
And then another film was Adaptation. Am I talking too much, you guys?
No, we love this.
Adaptation then came. I mean, there was Archer, and well, before Archer was Arrested Development, which was also like crazy because I think in those first 3 seasons, I was only in like 5 episodes. But Arrested Development was interesting because just from like a sort of historical perspective, and I think I'm getting this right, but it was the very first show that people TiVo'd. Remember TiVo?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm 100. So everyone started to get this box called TiVo, and that is what we now know of as DVR. If your audience is probably like, no shit. Anyway, so just in case. So we have TiVo now, and then we have this TV show that comes on that no one's like, it was this like handheld mockumentary format that also was pretty groundbreaking at the time. Like we forget because we have The Office and we have Parks and Rec and we have like a million shows now that do this, right? But at the time, like people weren't really doing this. It was like Cops, but without the cops. Like it was, and it was funny. Anyway, so this all was like this sort of like perfect storm of like this show that was groundbreaking that now people were recording digitally and they were not watching it when it was on Sunday night. And so the ratings were in the toilet, but it was like beloved. And there was no way that they could figure out how to monetize this miracle of a show. And eventually, as we know, it got canceled after 3 seasons. I mean, the fact that they were able to like eke out 3 seasons is like probably because of like awards and all that stuff. I don't remember. I wasn't a part of that because I wasn't a member of the cast full time. But that role of Kitty Sanchez that I played, like still to this day, like I can be in an airport and someone will be like, say goodbye to these. And I'm like, no, please keep your shirt on. But that was fun. And at the same time, I got pulled into this crazy world of Archer, which you mentioned, which was so fun. And we ended up doing 14 seasons of Archer, which was really great. And and then I did that film, The Descendants, this Alexander Payne film with George Clooney and Shailene Woodley and this amazing cast, which was nominated for everything. And I mean, like, I'm not afraid to say, like, I think it should have won the Academy Award. You heard it here. But
Yeah.
that movie was also, as far as like the experience of working with Alexander Payne, it was a dream of mine since I was a kid, not a kid, but like in my 20s, and I saw Citizen Ruth, and I thought to myself, like, when I saw Laura Dern's performance in that movie and that movie itself, and then watching all of Alexander Payne's movies, like, I was like, this guy like makes these incredible movies, and I don't know how he does it. And like Laura Dern's performance in Citizen Ruth, I was like, oh, like that is an ugly person. Like, she turned herself, like Citizen Ruth, like turned herself into this like ugly human that had like so much soul and so much love and so much life. And like, I just thought like, oh, I could do this. Like, I could tell these stories. I could act in roles like that. Cause I knew I didn't look like the super pretty, like, stars of romantic comedies. But like when I saw this, I was like, oh, there's like all these other movies out there that I could be in. There's all these other roles. There's like way more interesting roles, actually. Anyway, I digress. But yes, that movie also moved the needle for me and my career and changed, because then people started to think of me as like a more serious actress. And, you know, if Alexander Payne puts you in a movie, then people are like, okay, cool. I talk a lot.
This is fascinating. You know, the things that stand out to you and your career. I mean, it's fascinating to see, like what makes those marks as you're moving along. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, there's also, of course, the Marvel universe, like being an Ant-Man and the second Ant-Man, like those are all moments. Like, I loved making those movies with like Paul and Bobby, but being in the Marvel, whatever, it's like, that's great for foreign value, which ultimately is what gets me opportunities to make movies that I love, to play roles that I love. Because when you have foreign value, it's like, that's all like the business side of things, which is what I always think about, like, how is this going to increase my foreign value? Because it's not like I want to be famous in foreign places. It's that, like, I want to be able to make movies I want to make the movies I want to make. I want to have opportunities to play the roles I want to play. And I can't if those movies can't sell internationally.
Yeah.
And it's a weird list of people who have foreign value. Like, I don't know. It's not always the people you would think.
You obviously have over 150 films or projects. What do you gravitate towards right now? It's like, you've obviously touched on it. You've touched horror, you've touched rom-com, there's so much. Is there a genre that you lean towards or that you haven't touched yet, in terms of where you want to go or the projects that you want to attack next?
So funny. I forgot. I mean, like, I was like forgetting about like the whole like Halloween franchise that I did, which was like huge for me and made so much money, and was like, so again, we were talking about like fun. Yeah. Making a horror movie is so fun. It is like so fun and sticky, physically sticky, because all that blood is so sticky. You know what I haven't really done, and I have this question always, but I have never done like a true like action movie, and I think that would be really fun. Although I would probably get like stuck in like HQ being like, turn on the blaster, but like still I've never done an action film.
That's awesome. I do have a 13 going on 30 story though. I actually was a freshman in college when you guys were filming in New York. And I had no idea. I was always a Jen Gardner fan, but it was the scene, they filmed it outside of my dorm, and I had no idea what they were filming, and water was just pouring. The running scene on McDougal Street, they were filming that one night, and I was out with my friends. I was maybe a little inebriated. I was like, they're filming something. That's so cool. I haven't ever seen a set, because I was a freshman in college in New York City, NYU. And I was like, this is so cool. I wonder what they're filming. And then it was like, the next day, it's like, oh my God, they're filming this movie with Jen Gardner. And because it was her running scene. And I was like, oh, I'm going to look out for that. And I remember seeing it and being like, oh my God, I wish I just sat there and watched the scene that they taped over and over again. Because McDougal was like flooded with water from that scene. And I was like, this is how they do water scenes and rain scenes. And it was
I
just
know.
so funny. I was so green, but I was like, but
Oh,
it was
that's
like
awesome.
to have that memory, because I've never really seen other things get shot. Like I saw some Blacklist from my lifetime just being in New York, but like the 13 going on 30 running scene was like, I will always remember it. Yeah, that's
What?
what.
Where are you from originally?
Well, I'm from New Jersey, so but I went
Okay.
undergrad to NYU, and I'm in New York now.
When we were shooting that movie one day outside in New York City, it was a daytime scene. Mariska Hargitay was like walking, because she lives there, obviously, and was like walking somewhere, and she came by and said hi to us. And I was like so starstruck. Like I could hardly talk to her. I was like, her and Jen and Gary Winnick, our amazing director, were like, like, I think we were like gonna run across the street and get lunch. And like Gary's like, do you want to come to lunch? And I was like, if Mariska Hargitay goes to lunch, like I cannot go to lunch. Like I will not be able to eat. I will not be able to function.
Yeah, and then 2 years later, I found myself on an episode of Law and Order, and I almost died because it was like Jerry Orbach years, and I was like, "Oh my god, Jerry!" It's like, and
you were walking in the background.
And I have him like, and he like signed like a napkin for me, and I was like, and it's still, and like I bought a Law and Order book, and it's like still in there in my bookshelf. I was like, because it was like the time on set with like Sam Waterston. It was like it was amazing, and I was a huge Law and Order fan. But it was like I've had like these little mini moments that like kids now would just be like, "What are you talking about?" Like,
yeah, no, they'd be like, "I saw an influencer building herself in front of angel wings." I was such a New York Law and Order junkie, like the OG. And I would just love it so much. And one day, I remember once my manager was like, "We can get you on it. Like, I can get you on an episode. Like, you can do an episode of Law and Order." And I was like, "No, I never want to be on Law and Order. I need it to be this like
magical
wholesome thing that." Like I cannot go on that set. I just need it to be what it is so that I can always have it. Like I just need it to be what it is for me. And if I go there and I have like even like 5 crappy minutes, it will be ruined. So no. Also, while we were in New York shooting 13 going on 30, I think at one point, I was in the hair and makeup trailer, and it was like parked on a sidewalk, and like the door flew open, like some guy stuck his head in. He's like, "Who's in here working?" And it was Chris Noth. And I was like,
because they were filming Sex in the City or for
and it goes
or Law and Order. Yeah.
It was Sex in the City time, I believe, but I was like, ugh. Anyway, shooting in New York is pretty great for that reason.
You see so much, and I feel like the 13 going on 30 was like my first real like, oh my god, because then you see everybody like walking. You see like Janine Garofalo with her dogs. Like, it's just like, you know what I mean? Like it just becomes kind of second nature. But the rain scene, I'll just be like, I was so enamored with how they make rain in movies.
I know. It's insane.
Like, if I knew what movie it was and it was Jen Gardner playing, I would have been like, I would have just planted there. I would have been like, I'm not ready.
And like also like how you came to love that movie. And
yeah, I was like, oh my god, I know that scene. I was there. I was like, I'm on my way to Off the Wagon on McDougal Street to get more beer.
Yeah, it's funny how they do. I shot this Christmas movie in Winnipeg last year, and they shot it in Winnipeg for lots of reasons, but one of them being that it's like very snowy there. Yeah. And we were shooting all of our outdoor was the front yard of our family's house in the wintertime. And it was, of course, when there was no snow. And so they had to bring in all these snow machines and make like all this fluffy snow. And my poor producer, Jen, who I loved, she was just like, I can't believe this. I can't believe I have to bring in snow to Winnipeg in the winter. And then we went away for 2 weeks for Christmas and came back, and like the place was covered in snow. And it was just like,
oh man.
And the real snow looks different.
Snow was really pretty.
A little sparklier.
Fluffy.
Yeah, and movie rain is really stinky. That's something that no one ever tells you, is it smells. I don't know why, but it is like, I think it's like sitting in these like big gross barrels, like rain from the sky. You're like, oh, fresh rain. And movie rain is like, ew.
That is an insight we've never heard, Judy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So these projects that that you have coming out now, so we want to talk about Eric Larue a little bit.
Yeah.
Talk about something that is very, very different.
Labs. Buckle.
Right.
Yeah.
Not. So tell us about how, about this project and what it meant to you to be involved with this, and Alexander Skarsgård. Oh my goodness.
I know. So Michael Shannon directed this
Yeah.
movie. It's his first time directing a film. He directs loads of theater. I don't know if people know that, but I will tell them. Um, I did pitch flashbacks where my character and Alexander Skarsgård might like have kissed, but that just kidding. I didn't. On set, he'd be like, "No, Judy, no." But like, what if we're just like slightly affectionate towards each other? No, okay. Um, yeah, that movie. I mean, there's like, so Mike and I had worked together a few times, and he sent me the script. His friend, now our friend Brett Neveu, wrote it. It originally was a play that they performed at the Red Orchid Theater in Chicago, Illinois, which is where they're both not members. Let's say members, but that's not the right word. Anyway, so this got turned into a screenplay, and Mike sent it to me, and he was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about directing," which, by the way, whenever I met him years before, I was like, "Would you ever want to direct?" And he's like, "Hell no." And I'm like, "Hey, sorry I asked." But then he sent me this, and he's like, "Actually, I'm kind of thinking like I might want to direct this movie. Like, does it seem interesting to you to be in it?" And I read it like minutes after he emailed it, and I was so terrified that I knew I had to do it. These stories are really tricky to tell, I mean, obviously. And I thought it was so beautiful. The character, the subject matter is so hard. And those are the types of things like we talk about, like why I'm making decisions I'm making. It's like to tell stories like this. I've gotten the luxury to be at this point in my career where I can work with friends on a small movie. I can tell a difficult and beautiful story, and something that the more I think about this script, it changes for me, even though we've already shot it. Like what it's about kind of changes, and what I'm really seeing the last time I watched it was maybe it's just because of the fires in LA, but like people looking for help from their community and not getting it, and like looking for some place to belong. And I think that is a universal story. But I know I'm just starting to do press for this movie, and my answers are going to change as I kind of go down this road. My feelings about the movie will change as I talk to people who've seen it, because really not a lot of people have seen it yet. But I do think that like it was really interesting to me that my character was looking to church for help. And church has always been like, especially when you're in LA, like religion and church is really obviously divisive, and it's super polarizing. And I think that as I'm aging, like I get why people need something else to hold on to. And I get why people don't feel like they have it. And it's not just about dying and like what happens when we die, but it's like, where do we find comfort? And like, what is the bigger picture? Like, as everything around us seems to be sort of crumbling and falling apart, like, how can we find solace? Because it's not happening at the mall, and it's not happening like, I mean, like, I think it's time for maybe something bigger. I don't know. I'm terrified right now about the world and what's happening in our country. And so, not to make it political, but I do see this movie from a very different point of view now than I did when we made it. And what's like beautiful to me has changed a little bit.
There seems to be a real vulnerability in your character too, of, just the pieces that we were able to see of, being honest with her husband, being honest with her, the other women, the other mothers. Do you think that, was that something that was easy for you to kind of find as you were in the role to, like you said, reach out and really be vulnerable, that you need a community?
Well, it was easy, but I mean, only because I really feel like Mike was so awesome. He was like, he was such an incredible director. And because our cast was really small and he cast like all of his best friends. So we all had a lot of, we were also familiar with each other. We were also able to be vulnerable around each other and to try things and to not be afraid to like, you know, be ugly and like, this is a story about people. It's not like a big Hollywood movie. And I think like everyone who was there was on board to make the same movie. And that makes it, I mean, no, like the subject matter wasn't easy and the scenes weren't easy, but like making the movie was easy because I just felt so cared for from Mike, the producers, like the rest of the cast, we all, and then we would shoot these scenes that were so awful, and then we would like go out to this bar called Satellite in Wilmington, North Carolina, and like blow off a lot of steam, you know what I mean, and like have a really good time. I mean, that's what I mean. Making movies, it's like you never really know what you're gonna end up, how you're gonna end up feeling when you're making them. It feels like summer camp. It's like you go away. I mean, this is an argument for going on location, but you go away, you become like this like really insulated little bubble of family for like 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever it is. And like every single thing you do is like serving the purpose of this story, even when it's like going out to dinner after work. Like we all drove to work together every morning. Like I would drive Mike to work. We would stop and get coffee. And we would talk on our way to work, on our way to set about what we were shooting that day, about the character, about what she wanted, about what everything about that day, emotionally. And like, I never get to do that. Sometimes I don't even have like access to my director because they're surrounded by a million people. And it's like, we have to go. What's the problem? Yeah, well, we'll shoot it both ways. Like I get that so often, like, well, we can shoot it both ways and then we'll have it. I'm like, okay. I mean, I am getting what I want, but in this particular situation, like there was like so much like peace and nuance in our shooting of it. It was a hard shoot because of the subject matter, but it was so wonderful and it felt so cozy and loving. And it felt like we were making a play, which it was a play. So maybe that's why, but I don't know. Also, a lot of the actors do so much theater too.
That's awesome.
Also your off camera work. I'm so curious. You're I don't want to say you're as famous for your activities and your crafts but you've always been really, really, vocal and out there about working with animals and your projects, your knitting and your reading. You're such an avid reader. You wrote a book, but also, I mean, you've been out there with the fires. I mean, you have really, really been present and vocal about your volunteering with the fires. So I feel like that's something your whole career, you've always made sure that you're balancing your off camera life and kind of sharing that with us, which we love to see all those amazing things that you do.
Well, I did such a small fraction of what most people in LA did to help serve the fires, and anything that I posted, I really just posted to get information out to people. I was definitely like, oh my God, I'm volunteering, but I wanted to make sure that I could say like, and I also wanted to go myself and see, because it makes a difference if I'm like going somewhere and being like, oh, this is legit, or you go somewhere. I mean, there was some places I went that I was like, I don't know if I'll post about this because I don't know if like they're ready for that, or if like this is like maybe the thing right now, you know what I mean? So it was helpful. And I had a lot of people say like, oh my gosh, thank you so much I didn't know about that, or I didn't know I could send donations, yada, yada.
Right.
That stuff. And I'm shooting something miraculously here in LA. So the timing, at least I've been in town. So I had time to go and like check out places and help out and see like what can be done. I mean, what a devastation. The animal thing, like I love animals, but I got I got involved in this chimpanzee sanctuary called Project Chimps that's outside of Atlanta. It's like an hour drive outside. It's in Blue Ridge, Georgia. And I did this movie years ago with Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day and his wife. Like we were talking about, I was also in the Planet of the Apes movies, and we were talking one day about it. And then his wife reached out to me. Billy Joe reached out because, and his wife, like together they called and they were like, hey, we're getting this like chimpanzee sanctuary off the ground. Like, is that something you and your husband would be interested in? Because we know you love chimps and yada, yada. And we were like, yeah, sure. And so they roped us in and we got involved. And now we're on the board of this chimpanzee sanctuary and we're trying to raise money to finish building it out. We have like 100 chimps there. We need to get 200 more in. I care about that because that feels like the chimpanzees, that feels like something that like actually could be accomplished. Like we are like, we're trying to solve world hunger. We're trying to like, you know, gun violence, like women's health issues, like all that stuff. Like to me, sometimes I am like, oh my gosh, like how are we going to do this? And I look at these chimpanzees and it's like, we just need to get 200 chimps from one lab into a sanctuary. Like it's not that difficult. And then they'll live in the sanctuary and they'll party in the sanctuary and they'll hang out with each other and then they'll, you know, die of natural causes. Like this seems to me like, oh, here's an actual good thing that I can do that I can see the end of potentially, you know, like, and that feels exciting when you see light at the end of the tunnel and you're like, oh, this is a thing. Like, I don't know. In my lifetime, will we cure cancer? Like, I don't know, but like I know in my lifetime I can get these last chimps out of this last lab and I can like put them in the sanctuary where they can hang out and be friends and stuff.
Yeah.
But
it's tangible. It's something that you can control. It's more controlling versus these bigger thematics that the world is battling, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It does. It gets overwhelming sometimes, some of the causes.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Judy, I want to be mindful of time. This has been amazing to talk to you and like girl dream, girl crush.
Oh, thank you. This has been really fun. I hope you got what you needed, but I really love talking to you guys too. And if I can just in any way be encouraging to anyone trying to start their career, like the advice I do always give is like get in an acting class and take improv classes. I don't know how anyone can get an agent anymore or get cast anymore, but if you go take improv classes, you will have fun and you will make connections and you will make friends and you will be acting every single day in their class. And like that, I think that is the best advice for right now. Unless you want to try to get 10 million Instagram followers, you could probably be an actor that way, but you'll have a lot more fun in an improv class. I promise.
You don't have to tell your soul as much.
You really don't.
That is a perfect advice to end on. We love that. Thank you so much, Judy. We are huge, huge fans. We love everything. We're excited to see Eric Larue. We're excited to keep up My Family Loved best Christmas pageant ever over the holidays.
That was the one with the snow.
No, it was so great. But you just bring so much joy to us and continue to. So thank you.
Thank you too. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you for listening to In Her Words. We hope you'll join us at womeninentertainment.com and go to our Substack for extended interviews and behind-the-scenes access.